Oh, g'day scrappers. Yeah, so I was talking about buying eWaste for either profit or for the gold recovery guys. I'm actually just waiting for a scrapper to rock up with a bunch of motherboards and stuff to sell. So it might be a good opportunity to just give you a little example of how people bring me boards. Now, I mentioned that there's a few different ways or reasons why people buy eWaste. The first and obvious one is just to buy for resale. The other one is to buy for gold recovery, or like I do, a little bit of both. And the thing is that with circuit boards and that, not everything is worth going for gold recovery. Like motherboards, for instance. Now, motherboards are, the most common thing you're going to get. But, okay, what do we got for easy gold recovery? We've got BGA chip here. There'll be another one under here. And then pretty much, you got a few ICs, and then it's all these slots and pins for gold recovery. But really, it's not a great deal that we can just take off and go for any easy gold recovery. Sure, you got gold pins in here and all that, but that's a lot of work to get that little bit of gold out of all these pins. So, when it comes to motherboards, they're not really good for backyard, refiners to go for the gold, because we just can't get enough out of it compared to what a large eWaste refiner will be able to get, because they'll crush this board right down and extract every metal out of this. And that's why they can pay good money for motherboards, is because they get all the metals, all the copper, the platinum, palladium, the rhodium, whatever they can get out of it, they'll get the whole lot. And even the aluminium, and even steel, and even plastic, they'll do something with it. So they get maximum value. But for an average scrapper that's looking to recover gold on a motherboard, you're really not going to get the value that you've got to pay us pretty good money for a motherboard to get it. You're just not going to get that value when you factor in the time and all that, and the fact that you're going to have a lot of wastage. Whereas say like a slot card, well, that's a different story. A slot card, they're a smaller board, there's less rubbish. Straight away we've got gold fingers, okay, we've got easy IC chips, you've got the main little CPU here in the center, and a few other little bits. So there's less wastage compared to a motherboard, where it's all just, a lot of it is just junk for the average scrapper. So this is the thing with buying eWaste for gold recovery, is that you can't just pick and choose what you want to buy. Sure, I'd love to just buy slot cards and RAM and CPUs and stuff like that, and high grade boards, but no one's going to come to you and sell you all the good stuff if you're not prepared to buy the most common and the regular stuff, like motherboards and even mid-grade boards, things like that. There is very little for us, gold recovery-wise. Sure, we've got the IC chips we can take off. We've got a little bit of gold in these jacks here, but that's it. So if you buy mid-grade boards, which you can't avoid, no one's going to send you all the cream if you're not going to buy their most common stuff. So, when it comes to mid-grade boards, motherboards, what you want to do is you really got to find a buyer that's going to take them. So even if you don't make much profit on between your buy price and your buyer's buy price, at least you're turning them over and you're getting rid of them. You only might make 10%. That's fine. If you pay, say you pay 50 cents a pound for this, if you can sell it for 60 cents a pound, that's fine, right? Because then it offsets by getting your stuff that you really want, slot cards, high grade boards, RAM. So Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to explain because everyone's, that's interested in buying e-waste are going to have, different reasons why they're buying it. And so the number one thing before you go out and buy is to understand your market. Like here in Australia, the prices of that the big board buyers pay is a lot less than, say, in America. In America, they pay for e-waste, they pay top dollar. Here we don't, because we're so far away from the rest of the world that everything needs to be shipped out for them to get it processed. And so the prices are a lot different. Let's just go with this slot card here. Now, I pay $3.70 a kilo. Now, in the US, they pay about the same amount per pound. So they're paying double what I pay. But the reason is because my price to resell is only a very small markup compared to here in Australia, compared to in the States, what you can resell them for. But where you can benefit is, okay, so I've got this mid-grade board. I pay 95 cents for it. I might sell it and make 20% profit on it, okay? So I've got to be careful to understand the local prices and to be able to buy these at less than I'm going to sell them, obviously. But when it comes to things like slot cards, where I'm mostly going for the gold recovery, okay, I can pay a little bit more because then I don't really have to think about the value of what my buyer will pay for them, because I'm basically going by the gold value. So then to get that value, I go to, say, buyers in the US and see what they're paying, because obviously they're not going to pay any more than the gold that they can get out of it and the other precious metals. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the boards that you're buying to resell, you got to make sure that that's cheaper than your competition, okay? But the boards that you buy like this for your own gold recovery, well, you can pay a little bit more, and that way you're going to attract people to sell to you on certain things. They're going to say, okay, well, all right, they're only paying low price for these, but they're paying a lot more for the good stuff. So you'll still get people selling to you, and that way, you're not going to. So if I can sell these for $4 a kilo and I buy these for $4 a kilo, I'm not losing, because I'm going to get more when I go for the gold recovery, whereas I'm not going to get really anything much value in gold recovery for this. So I'm not going to waste my time depopulating this board. If people bring me a lot of these, I just sell them straight to my buyer. I don't worry about it. It gives me the opportunity to buy, say, slot CPUs like this. Now, again, all there is on here is, your really nice gold fingers and your main CPU in the center there. So these I can attract sellers to sell to me by paying more than what a regular e-waste buyer pays, because I'm just focusing on gold recovery, not to resell these or anything like that. So that's it. But anyway, I've got a scrapper coming, and he's dropping off some boards for me to buy today. So it might just be a good opportunity to just give you a little bit of a look on how boards are presented to me. Obviously, everyone's different. Usually they're in boxes, so we'll see how it comes today. And then what I'm going to do is go through some board prices and prices that I pay for e-waste myself. And you can just sort of judge for yourself. But that by no means is any indication on what you should buy your boards for, because, I'm in Australia. So if you're not in Australia, you're in another country, you really need to understand what your country is paying. And there's people saying, well, there is no big board buyers out there. You'd be very surprised. Most board buyers don't advertise as board buyers. They advertise as e-waste recyclers. So you've got to just look up your main e-waste recyclers in your area, and you'll find that if you contact them, they deal with the boards. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're recycling, but they're not throwing these out in scrap metal, they're also, you know, selling these to their board buyers. So any of those companies that advertise that they recycle e-waste in your area, if you contact them, you'll find that they are also buyers. They just don't buy publicly. So just get onto them, and they'll either buy from you or they'll tell you where to go to sell them. But okay, well, the scrapper's here with the boards, so I'm just taking my wheelbarrow out to help him. Alrighty. Well, you spent a bit of time stacking it up.
About an hour or so, I reckon.
Yeah. Alright, so slot cards, motherboards. Yeah, it's just like this one here. Kind of half of it's mid-grade, but this is all like power boards. So because it's so many transformers and stuff, you know. But yeah, sometimes they're a bit common. Yeah, but all that's mid-grade, no worries. Alright.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether you'd want them, I just had them lying around, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, takes me a while to get started, so that's kind of it. Okay. Oh no, I'll just tip them. Okay. Zero that out. So as I'm bringing in motherboards, all I'm looking for is making sure that the batteries have been removed and the main heatsink bracket has been removed. So yeah. Okay, well, I finished buying those boards, and that scrap is gone, so I can get back to what I was talking about. And so what I'm going to do now is just give you basic prices on what I pay, but like I said, it's got nothing to do with what you should be paying, because it's every country is totally different. Even in the same country, if you're in Australia, it's still different. It really depends on your buyer. If you can't find yourself a buyer, you're going to have to really change up how you buy or what you buy and how much you pay. Because if you got no buyer purely for gold recovery, things like motherboards are just not going to be worth your while. Because if you're going to be competitive in paying the prices that board buyers pay, then you're not going to get your money back from a motherboard. Whereas, say for instance, RAM, high grade boards, yep, you'll get, if you pay similar price as a board buyer through gold recovery, you'll be able to make better, you know, a bit of a profit on it. But so just for an example, the lowest grade board I buy are what I call mid-grade boards. They're basically just your green boards, both sides. Usually they should have at least one IC chip. It's got to be a circuit board and not just a power board. So even though it's got a bit of junk on it, it's still a mid-grade board. And as you can see, transformers, just a couple of little chips here. So that's what we call mid-grade board, and it can vary. Here we got a slot card, but it's had the fingers cut off. So this now is a mid-grade board, and technically though this fan should be gone, but that's what you're going to find. So if you get someone come to sell you boards, you've got to be a bit strict on say removing these fans, because you're paying for absolutely nothing, and your buyer might not accept it, and most buyers don't accept fans. So but anyway, this was a good slot card that was worth good money, but because they've chosen to take off the gold fingers, they've turned this into a mid-grade board. In America, you could probably get it's just still a slot card with fingers removed, but I don't recommend buying and paying that price for them. I recommend just going for a just like a peripheral board in America. So anything off small modems, DVD boards, even things like this, like little riser cards, I just throw these in mid-grade board. If they had slot fingers, gold fingers, then it would go as a slot card. DVD boards. Now here's another one. It's an interesting one, a little bit like hard drive boards. I noticed that in America they buy DVD boards for a better price than peripheral, but the problem is it might be okay for the old style DVD boards with the large set of pins and stuff going on the actual board, but the new style with the SATA connection, there's really nothing on it. So that's a DVD board. It's not worth any more than any other peripheral board, because there's really nothing on it to for any kind of gold recovery. The pins are different here, nothing like these pins, and as you can see, the chip is only as big as the smallest chip on this board. So yeah, this is another one. Like if you're in America, I wouldn't pay more just because it's a DVD board, simply because you're going to start to get a lot of these SATA connector ones. So definitely mid-grade board. Things like out of LCD TVs, like this is a T-Con board. Basically it's just a mid-grade board to me, a peripheral board. Same as that. Even that is a mid-grade board, even though it's got gold corner chips. Well, most buyers around the world don't really go by gold corner chips. They just go by the grade of the board, and this is still a mid-grade board, but it has got some junk, so it's got dead weight that you're getting paid for. But so for mid-grade boards, I'm paying $1 a kilo. And another kind of board that I grade as mid-grade are these backplane boards. Now, backplane boards vary a lot. Sometimes they're a lot better than others. But these two examples I've got here, so basically it's nothing on one side, and it's just got slots for either slot cards or sockets for pins. As you can see, it's got a lot of gold pins all the way through it, but this board overall, it's a very thick board, so you got to be careful with these. I wouldn't pay what they pay in America for backplane boards. Stick to mid-grade board, peripheral board grade, because this weighs about 3 pounds, but all you've got on it is just gold pins. Even though the pins are going to be good, but there's a long way to go to get that bit of gold out of these pins, and you do have a lot of wastage. Same as this board. This board's even thicker, and this weighs about 6 or 7 pounds, and there's a lot of dead weight. You've got these metal pins here, and so all we've got is just these pins. So they're basically like a little sheet of metal with some gold plating on one side, and then little pins, and it's just keeps going like that. But yeah, be careful with buying stuff like that, because only pay peripheral board, right? And so I'm only paying 90 cents a kilo, sorry, $1 a kilo at the moment. All right, and another thing, obviously, the main thing you're going to get is motherboards. Now, if I can get my little price lists. So for motherboards, I'm paying $2.90 a kilo, and usually there's basically 3 different kinds of PC motherboard, and I noticed that in America they can grade, put it and throw them into 3 different grades, whereas in Australia a PC motherboard is a motherboard. That's it. There is no difference. But the difference is that this is supposedly the lower grade because it's got the metal bracket around the CPU socket. So that's one grade. A better grade is what they call a small socket motherboard. And although there's not a great deal difference, and then you've got your large socket motherboard. And again, if you look at it closely, there's really not much difference out of the rest, except probably, you know, these metal ones, they've got a little bit more junk and less value gold recovery wise. But what I recommend is not to buy in 3 different grades, just, you know, to save confusion, because a lot of scrappers don't want to know every little aspect about grading boards. If you just call them motherboards and be done with it, and then pay accordingly, like pay what you would pay for the lowest grade and pay for the whole lot. And that way, when you get them, you don't have to sort out, which one's small socket, which one's large, which one's metal. You just sell the whole lot, buy the whole lot for one price. And if your buyer does have a grading, then you can separate for your own benefit. You know, then you can get a little bit more money maybe. But otherwise, for gold recovery, there really isn't a great deal of difference. But I wouldn't be buying motherboards if I was looking at just gold recovery. Motherboards and mid-grade boards are the 2 boards that I look to on sell. But if you don't have a buyer, it's, you know, you're going to probably lose money if you've got to buy motherboards and then try and strip it down for gold recovery if you're paying market prices. So I recommend if you don't have a buyer and you want to buy eWaste for gold recovery, pay a lot less for your motherboards and pay more for things like RAM. You know, pay you know, 50% more than what the buyer your competition will pay, and attract people to sell to you that way. You know, so that's what a lot of board buyers tend to do. They inflate prices of RAM. They pay top dollar, and just to make it, you know, but they know that they're not going to get much. And even if they do, that's fine. If they don't make much money on it, they might only get 10 to 20 pounds from a scrapper at a time. Whereas motherboards, you can get, you know, today it was about 200 pounds of motherboards dropped off. So, you know, they really add up. And I can't really do anything with them gold recovery. I would lose money based on the price that I pay. Anyway, I don't want to go on too long. So the next grade is server boards, and I pay $3.70 a kilo for server boards. And a server board is basically something like that. It's got twin sockets. So dual socket motherboard is a basic server board. So and this is another good example of not being worthwhile for gold recovery to actually buy at market price. Some server boards are amazing, other server boards not so good. Like this one here, there's really not a lot for gold recovery. You got the main chip here and another one under this heatsink, but the rest you're not going to get any gold recovery out of it. And so it's a very heavy board. So this is the kind of board that you've got to be careful of, and it really helps if you've got a board buyer where you can send it off and get your money back, and then, like I said, focus on the good gold recovery. But that's server boards, $3.70 a kilo. Then the other one are laptop boards. I also pay $3.70 a kilo. So laptop boards, server boards, they both go for $3.70 a kilo. And that's a laptop board. I mean, obviously they vary. They can be really big. These ones are off probably just the mini tablet laptops. But as you can see, the reason why we pay server grade is, if you compare to a regular motherboard, a regular motherboard has all this junk on it, all these junky stuff, whereas there's really nothing on a laptop motherboard apart from circuitry and all little goodies. There's even copper here. So yeah, I pay $3.70 a kilo for laptop boards. And slot cards. So basically slot cards with the gold fingers intact. I also pay $3.70 a kilo. So same as laptop motherboards, slot cards, $3.70 a kilo. I even pay that with the bracket. In most cases, you should be able to leave your bracket on. The only thing you want to take off, if there's large heat sinks with fans, you always want to take them off. But slot cards vary a lot, and they can be good for gold recovery. So these are one of the first things I buy for gold recovery. I depopulate the boards myself. But yeah, they really do vary. So you got, really nice biggish kind of ones. They've got 3 sets of gold fingers. So, that's fine. That's actually quite a high grade slot card. This is the kind of slot card that I would prefer to depopulate, because as you can see, there's no junk on it. There's no capacitors or transformers. It's just basic board, a few chips on it, and some really nice fingers. Remember the X-ray machine, these boards? Well, that's basically a slot card. It's got slots, it's a card. Very common, these red ones. And again, you can see, you got your main chip here, you got some little BGAs around there, but there's not a whole lot. So you've got to be careful when you're going for gold recovery. Some of these slot cards can be very heavy and are actually worth selling as slot cards. But if you don't have a buyer, you're going to struggle to get your money back if you're paying competitive prices. So you just got to be careful. Sometimes you get bonus slot cards like this. This is actually, it's pretty much like a slot CPU. So it's worth twice as much as a slot card, but it's still technically a slot card. But there we've got a CPU on there. So this is really nice if you're going for gold recovery. You want to depopulate everything. Take all these chips, everything, the gold, the CPU. Really nice. One thing to be careful of, technically, this is like from a server. It's a slot card, right? Because it's got gold fingers, and they're quite nice gold fingers. But the problem here is, look at all these transformers, and this is just dead weight, and it makes the board very heavy. Now, technically, it's a slot card, but really, it's not. So when you get this, you're going to have to tell the guy that's selling them to you, look, yes, it is a slot card this side, it's got the slots, but there's too much transformers to pay slot card value. So really, it's one of those things you have to determine yourself. What I would do, I would like to just break this board in half somehow and say, and pay slot card for this side and give him back that, because this is just a power board this side. It's not worth very, very little. And so this is where you got to be careful with slot cards. Don't pay top dollar for something that's, even though it is what it's meant to be, it's not really. So not everything, just because like a good thing is like telecom boards. Just because a board comes out of a telecom piece of equipment like a modem or anything else telecom, it doesn't mean it's a telecom board. The board itself has to be a telecom grade board for it to be telecom, like that. That's what is graded as a telecom board. As you can see, there are no transformers whatsoever. There is no metal bits or anything like that. It's all just these BGA chips, IC chips, flat packs all over it, right? These yellow things, by the way, these ones are resistors and these ones are tantalum capacitors. So you can even see that it starts with an R, resistor, starts with a C, capacitor. I still get people asking me questions about it, so thought I'd just pop that in. But okay, so this comes out of a telecommunications kind of board. It's actually a Cisco board. Okay, so we know that Cisco is really good stuff, but it doesn't mean always that it's going to be a telecom grade board. This one is, but other things that come out of Cisco stuff might be very, very junky. And yeah, see, it's not something someone can explain, you know, just in 10 minutes. It's something that you've got to pick up over time. But we're still on slot cards, so I just want to finish off the slot cards, because slot cards are one of the cream things that you want to be buying. You know, they're a little bit, you know, most scrappers, you know, won't look at them as for gold recovery, and they'll know that, yeah, okay, you got gold fingers, but, you know, if you're paying good price for them, most scrappers will prefer to sell them rather than scrapping. One thing you won't get as much of is RAM. You know, most scrappers just, you know, because RAM is so popular, no one seems to want to sell it that much. Mostly the people that sell RAM to me are scrappers that came and gone. You know, they scrapped for about 6 months, they got hooked on it, and then they lost interest and have moved on, so they just want to get rid of everything. That's when I get RAM. Even CPUs too. So here we got another slot card. Now, as you can see, this one full of transformers, this one very, very little transformers. So, and look at the slots going, gold fingers going all the way along, you know. So we've got over 8 inches of fingers here. And so this, no worries, you buy slot card. But the thing with this is, technically, it's also a motherboard. You see, here's your little small socket CPU. Okay, so basically it is a motherboard. So when you buy stuff like this, you can go for the gold. You can take off these fingers, and you can still sell this board as a motherboard. Okay, here's another example, right? As you can see, it's got a large socket CPU. Okay, it's got 4 RAM slots. It's just like a motherboard. You've got your pins. Okay, so there's no real difference. You've got high-grade BGA chips, and you've got these beautiful slot fingers. So you buy these as a slot card because they've got fingers. If you remove these, like I've done here, identical board. Okay, now I've removed the gold fingers off this board. Okay, so now it's not a slot card. That's fine. I lose $1 a kilo in value, but I still get motherboard grade. So whereas the other option was remove the fingers off a slot card. A slot card is generally just then becomes a peripheral mid-grade board. But in this case, it's a motherboard. So it's you're winning, you know, 2 times, because now I'm not losing much money. I'm pretty much getting my money back, because I've got a markup between what I pay for motherboards and what I get for them. So I'm still getting my money back, but in this case, I've got myself 3 really nice sets of gold fingers. All right. So much to talk about, and it's just because, look, you know, some people tell me to write down scripts so I don't repeat myself. I don't and ah, but you know, I'm not a script writer, and I just prefer to just speak off the cuff, and just whatever comes out comes out. So it's not always going to be perfect, but and I'm not always going to say the things that I want to say, but that's just life. Okay, now hard drives, if I come over here a bit. Now I pay 90 cents a kilo for hard drives. Okay, and the thing with hard drives is, especially these days, is as far as gold recovery, these new style hard drives, there's just no real value in them. They're basically, it's mostly the aluminium, and if you want to spend your time going through and getting your magnets and on, you know, low value stuff, they're quite time consuming. But I pay quite a good price compared to what I can sell them for. So I don't make much money on hard drives at all, but I don't really get a whole heap of hard drives. But the thing is that this is a 320 gig hard drive. It's a more modern style hard drive, and look at the size of the board, right? And this is the problem with at the moment here in Australia, is finding buyers that will actually buy hard drive boards, because they've been put off. So here's your hard drive board. Now this is supposedly a logic board, okay? It's meant to be high end, but really looking at it, there's nothing here. We've got some little gold pins, no big deal, but we've just got 3 IC chips. There's really no, there's, you know, very small MLCCs, you know, which are going to be the class 1, you know, noble metal MLCCs. So they're all right, but really there's nothing on it. So this is basically just a mid-grade board. It's a peripheral board. There is nothing really to suggest that, you know, it's worth any more, and it's worth what they're paying for hard drive boards, like in America, you know, paying $7 or $8 a pound. You know, the old style, yes, but here's another newer one, slightly bigger. Just get that off. Okay, so there we go. Really nothing spectacular. And so this is the reason why here in Australia, board buyers are not buying hard drive boards anymore, but instead they're buying complete hard drives with the board, because we can sell them for what they are, whereas we can't sell these boards as hard drive boards. So here's an older style, okay? Now look at the size of that difference. If I can just get one out. Let's get a screwdriver. Okay. So, you know, a few years ago, a lot of hard drive boards looked like that. And so that's why, you know, board buyers started to pay, you know, really good money, because this is what I call a logic card. You know, look at all the IC chips, you know, and, you know, this really nice crystal oscillator here, you know, and just everything is just bigger and more to it. So yeah, I understand buying hard drive boards, but when you go to, if you advertise to buy hard drive boards, you're going to get a lot of this new stuff now. And so do you really want to pay $7 a pound for this, when, say like this board here, I'm paying $1 a kilo. I'm not going to pay $7 a kilo for this when I can get these for $1 a kilo. And, you know, much larger IC chips, even got gold plating in these sockets. So yeah, that's just my thing. It's up to you. You know, if you have a buyer that's willing to buy hard drive boards, whether regardless of the type of pins they are or how old they are, then that's fine. What you do is buy your hard drive boards, but separate, take out the old style boards for gold recovery, okay, and you'll get value out of that, and then sell these to your buyer if you've got a buyer. If you don't have a buyer and you're just going for gold recovery and you're going to depopulate the whole lot, then across the board I'd pay a much lower price. In fact, for me, I don't buy them anymore. I only buy hard drive boards as mid-grade boards, depending on how much they've got. If they've got like 100 pounds of them, yeah, I'll probably give them a little bit more, but yeah, you really got to be careful with that. So that's hard drive. Okay, and the other, well, one good one, are slot CPUs, and I pay $9 a kilo. And you recognise that's how the Pentium 3 slot CPU originally looks like. It's got the fan, the heatsink, the whole lot. Obviously, you don't buy it like this, but we can take out the card, and what we end up is something like that. And that's a slot CPU at $9 a kilo. And as you can see, they're very much similar to a RAM stick. Okay, about the same size fingers, just a lot shorter, obviously. Okay, so that's why they pay pretty good money for slot CPUs. It's mostly the gold fingers, and these gold fingers are a better quality gold than these. Not by a lot, but I can just tell anyway. Okay, you've got a BGA sort of CPU here. In a regular RAM, you can have these BGAs or just regular ICs. But that's a slot CPU, and they can vary. So that was that one. You got this one with the larger CPU and the heat spreader on top. And you got these really nice ones with the AMD ceramic CPU. So yeah, these are my favourite. Another kind of slot CPU is this one. Okay, so we've got our gold fingers, we've got our main CPU, and then we've got some other junk, nothing much on the other side. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of these kind of slot CPUs have amazing MLCCs. So if you're into palladium, these are probably the best kind of MLCs you want to get. And from like Max, that's also, it's technically not a slot CPU because it doesn't have the slot, it doesn't have gold fingers, but I still pay slot CPU value because whilst we've got a really nice CPU here, but you can just see these MLCCs wrapping all around here, just amazing. And the other side, just an incredible array of MLCCs, the highest quality you can get. So definitely I still pay for these because I like to collect these. I don't even go for gold recovery. Another one that's technically not slot CPU, it doesn't have the fingers, but it's kind of a CPU, but I wouldn't pay slot CPU for this simply because all that's on it is a CPU. You've got a nice BGA chip here, but you've got all this junk here, capacitors, this big copper ferrite piece. Just this is all just real junk. So this I'd pay like, I'd throw it in motherboards or something like that. Alright, and then the next one was what we just spoke about previously, was telecom grade boards. I paid $4.50 a kilo for them, and so this is basically one version of a telecom grade board. Here we got, this is Nortel network, so it's out of some kind of telecom switch thing. You can see this side, basically this just goes as telecom grade, simply because it's double-sided and it's got chips both sides. Yep, I could pay. Sometimes it's really hard, like this came out of some kind of telecom thing, but it's not really telecom. But these are very high grade chips, like these CPU here, ceramic ones, high grade chips, but a bit of junk. So this one is very hard. I wouldn't really pay telecom grade board for it. I'd put this into server, but not telecom. This little one here, okay, both sides, it is a telecom kind of board, and because it's got no junk, yep, I pay telecom. I pay telecom for that. Very nice. This one, very close, just depending on what else they're bringing me. Yeah, it's a telecom kind of board, Nortel networks, but really this is server grade. It's not really telecom grade because it just doesn't have enough on it to be telecom grade. It's got these copper little transformers here, Yeah, so I'd pay server, which is only a little bit less. Probably the same with that, server grade. It's going to have some nice BGAs under here. Got a couple little ones there. Nothing on the other side. So basically, whilst it is a telecom board, it came out of a telecom board. We don't grade this as a telecom board. This would go as mother grade at best. It wouldn't even go server. These ones are a little bit difficult. From switches, routers. As you can see, it's a very, very large board. And this part here is very heavy. You know, you got probably 2.5 pounds just in this section here. So it's one that you've got to be careful when buying, because although under these heat sinks, they're going to be really nice BGA chips like that. So, you know, you got there's 2 on each one of there. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 13 hidden BGA chips. So yeah, it's a nice board, but it's just for its weight. You've got to be careful on this. This one I would pay mother grade board at best because of simply all the weight. Whether it's to on sell, my board buyer won't pay telecom or server for this. He'll probably pay mother grade board. But for gold recovery, you know, yeah, you remember you're going to throw away a lot of this board. So you just got to be careful when buying stuff like that. It's okay when you get 1 or 2 here and there. It's when someone comes along with a truck full of just boards like that, you're going to have to really be careful. And then the last kind of board are what I call high grade with gold caps, and I pay $5.80 a kilo. And but it varies. It really depends on the board. Some boards I can pay up to $7, even $8 if they look amazing. But usually, so what I mean by high grade gold caps, so it's obviously high grade. We've got no transformers, capacitors, anything like that. We've got EPROMs here. And we've got these Motorola CPUs. So when you see gold caps on top of, you know, chips on a board, that's what we consider high grade gold cap board. Okay. Another variation, again, or it's already a high grade, like a server grade board, but it's got the Motorola gold cap CPU here. It's also got the 8000 series kind of CPU here. With the gold cap as well. Now this one here doesn't have gold legs, but still that's a gold cap board. This one sort of starts dropping down. It's still got one Motorola CPU. It's got some, you know, nice EPROMs and that. It's got a lot of chips, a lot of things going on here. So, but I would probably pay telecom grade for this. Yeah, and that's just another one similar to the other one with one Motorola gold cap and another one here. But this one, as you can see, it's got gold legs. So it's it's a much higher thing. Now when it comes with, you know, to this, I mean, this is the cream stuff you want to get for gold recovery. But as you already know, and people are going to mention, like, I can remove this carefully, this CPU with the gold legs, and you can sell that CPU for probably, you know, 10 times more than you could actually get gold out of it. So you know, you keep that in mind. And also some boards, if you know where they've come from, like sometimes people just leave these stacked up outside in the backyard for years, and so they're not going to be any, you know, really any good. But like in this case here, we've got these 2 EPROMs. Now if you wanted to put more time into maximizing your value out of boards that you buy, you can look up these part numbers, and this is a genuine IBM from 1988. Okay, so this EPROM here, it might actually be a valuable chip just to sell on its own, even though there's no visible gold or anything, but it might be worth $25, $30. So that's another way you can look into when you're buying these. You might say, okay, you're buying these boards, I'm paying $5.80 a kilo, right? But say someone says, oh, but I reckon there's more value here because these chips should be able to sell and stuff. And say if you, excuse me, if you know what you're doing and you're prepared to take out these chips and sell them, then yeah, you could pay more. Like for this board, instead of paying $5.80, I might pay, I say, okay, I'll pay $6.50 for these boards. And also it depends on how many they get. So, okay, well that's high grade gold cap. The other thing was RAM. So with RAM, I pay, for tin RAM, I pay $3 a kilo, RAM bus, $5, and gold RAM, $12. So gold RAM, okay, $12 a kilo. So RAM bus, $5 a kilo, and that's basically gold RAM with aluminium heatsink over the outside. They're a bit messy to take off, so they do take a while. So that's actually a good price. And then you got the tin RAM, which is just tin. So it's basically all we're buying these for are all these really nice IC chips, because in these IC chips there's going to be gold, usually, hopefully. And so that's the only reason why I'm paying even $3 a kilo for them, simply because they're for the IC chips. But the actual RAM sticks themselves could be worth selling, but you know, what's the chances you're going to sell this, you know? All right, and the last things that I buy are IC chips. In this case, dip chips, $7 a kilo, which are basically your regular IC chips. Can come off anything, even if they've got legs on two sides, and even if they come off RAM, they all sort of go under the same category. $7 a kilo. The second ones are the flat packs. I'm paying $9 a kilo for. That's just basically four-sided legs. So anything that's, yeah, got four sides, large flat packs, $9 a kilo. And the third type of IC are the EPROMs at $11 a kilo. What I mean by EPROMs are the ones with the glass windows. Okay, so you know, they're called EPROMs or EEPROMs or whatever they're called. If they've got the glass window, I call them EPROMs, $11 a kilo. And the fourth type are the BGA chips. BGA chips, big difference. I pay $70 a kilo. And so basically BGA means ball grid array. So those little balls, they've got no legs. They don't, you know, they can either be blank or they can have gold corners, doesn't matter. BGA, as long as they've got the balls underneath and not legs, they're all under the same category. Even small ones, like off RAM, no legs, BGA, all under the same category. Finally, we just got CPUs, and this is your Pentium 4 pinless, no pins. You're very common. This is pretty much what we're getting these days, and as far as gold recovery, these are very, very low. It's mostly this copper backing. There's more value in the copper than any gold there. But for Pentium 4 pinless, I pay $4 a kilo. And for Pentium 4 Mac or green fiber with pins, and heatsink, heat spreader if you like, $7 a kilo. And so that's the most common one, with pins, heat spreader, more from server kind of servers. So you got the pins. It looks like a green fiber. It is a green fiber, but it's got the heat spreader on the back. Okay, and obviously this one, solid pins, huge copper spreader on the back. So they're $7 a kilo. Alright, the next ones are the green and brown fibers, $13 a kilo. That's a green and that's a brown fiber. As you can see, there's no heat spreader on the back. So that's what we mean by green fiber. Here's a smaller one from probably a laptop or something. Also, it doesn't have a heat spreader, so this goes the same as green and brown fiber, $13 a kilo. And then you got the black fiber, $25 a kilo. So about twice as much as the brown or green, and that's the black fiber. It's got a little heat spreader on it, but that's fine. For some reason, they go for good money, so you got to pay what the market pays. You got the two AMD, the AMD ceramic at $28 a kilo. So it's a ceramic CPU. It's just got it's got no heat spreader on the back. $28 a kilo. The AMD with the aluminium back, $20 a kilo. So it's pretty much similar to this one, except less pins, and you know, you're also paying for the aluminium. That's only worth, to here, it's only worth $1 a kilo, but we're paying $20. So that's them. The other one is the Pentium ceramic, and that's it there. Just the regular Pentium ceramic CPU, $31 a kilo. And remember that there's a lot of oddball CPUs. There's hundreds of different CPUs. It's but a lot of them we put into grades of that are similar, rather than having prices for every single CPU. The next one is the Cyrix and IBM. They're the gold cap, $42 a kilo. So that's a Cyrix with a gold cap, $42 a kilo. It's another one. It's the IBM one. So they're all very much the same CPU. So this is what I mean by different variations. So if you just list Cyrix and IBM, I mean, it's not going to cover every one, but if a CPU looks like that, gold cap, it pretty much goes into the same category at $42 a kilo. Then we got the Pentium Pro, the really nice giant Pentium Pro. I did a CPU recently with a Pentium Pro out of it, and the Pentium Pro paying $85 a kilo for the Pentium Pro. Beautiful CPU, and as you know, things like this are worth more as a collectible rather than gold recovery these days. And so too are a lot of things like gold caps, a lot of ceramics. They're really not as common as they used to be, so they're just getting very hard to find. And then we got the 386 and 486 CPU at 130 a kilo. That's the 386 CPU, Intel 386, and that's the 486. So they're about the highest value, most common CPU that you can get these days. And so they've got gold caps, ceramic, But you also get, like I mentioned, there's other CPUs that have got different models. They might be different to a 486, but they're very similar. So that's how we price them. So here is an Intel i960. And so it looks very similar to the back, but that's not how we're looking at the gold cap and the type of CPU. And as you can see, it's also got a gold cap, and it's very similar to that CPU. In fact, it even might be a little bit better. Who knows? But it's not a 486, it's an Intel i90. But we still pay the same price because they're pretty much identical. So we don't have to list every single CPU. If we say 486, everyone knows what we're talking about. And then if any CPU looks like a 486, we're paying the same price. And yeah, and finally, what we call, or what I call, the 8000 series at $150 a kilo, which is basically the long CPU with the gold cap and the gold legs. Okay, so if they look like that, that's what I'm paying. If they look like that on the top, but they got, say, like that, so you can see they look similar to the top. There's less gold running through it, but there are no, but there are just 10 legs. So obviously I'm not going to pay the same price. So if I pay 150 for gold legs, I'm going to pay probably 120 for these without the gold legs, and hope that they're very much the same inside. Oh, and I forgot to mention the after the Pentium Pro, the Motorola. It's $100 a kilo, and that's the little Motorola there. Well, that's a Motorola, but if they look like the Motorola, see how they're a little bit different, but we value them at the same. Okay, so they don't have to exactly be Motorola. They can be like this brand here, PBM, and but that's what we mean by Motorola. Very, very small CPU. Like the i90, the Motorola sits inside the middle. That's how small they are. So that's why we pay a higher price, because there's still quite a bit of gold for the weight. Okay, well, I hope this helps you out if you're interested in buying eWaste yourself. Remember, research is your number one best advice, because knowing your local area and what you can sell is really going to help you out, so you can go for the stuff that you're after more for gold recovery. But if you're just looking at buying boards for resale to make a profit on, then you're definitely going to have to find a board buyer that buys at a commercial level, and that's going to be your local eWaste recycler. They'll either buy the boards themselves, or they'll know where you can sell them to. But there are definitely board buyers pretty much everywhere in the world, just not at the scrapper level advertising. So that's what I said. There is an opportunity to buy eWaste for a lot of people out there, and you just got to make the decision whether you want to buy eWaste for profit, or you want to buy eWaste for gold recovery. Either way, you're going to need a board buyer to buy those boards that you can't get much gold out of, like motherboards. You're going to turn over a lot of motherboards. So even if you make 50 cents a pound profit on your boards that you need to sell, it's better than ending up with them that you're not going to get much value as far as gold recovery. You know, like these things, the motherboard slot card, I sell it, take off the fingers, sell it as a motherboard. The commercial e-waste recyclers, they can extract value out of this, because they don't just go for gold, they go for everything, all the metals, everything that they can get. So they're going to get their value. Just as a gold recovery person or a backyard refiner, you're not going to get much. Well, you're going to get, your gold out of these chips, You know, it's quite difficult to get the gold out of these ram slots. It's a different kind of metal. You got some pins here, but then you got all this rubbish, and yeah, it's very hard to get value off motherboards. Slot cards are a different thing. Like even this slot card, it wasn't much to buy because there's nothing really on it, very light. So take the fingers off and can take off all these chips, and then I can just, and you know, any gold pins and switches, and then the blank board you can just throw away, and you should still get, you know, a good return from the recovery. But anyway, if you got any questions, feel free to ask. I think I've covered the buying aspect reasonably well, as best I can, because you know, yeah, it's all about you and finding out in your local area. What happens here in Australia in my situation is completely different to what's happening in any other country or even any other state. So do your own research and yeah, find your own, you know, opportunities there, and yeah, good luck to you. All right, well, keep scrapping, guys. Have fun, and yeah, I'll catch you next time.